me at Cello, Cello. You had me at Cello. You had me at Cello. Oh, you had me at Cello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cello Chat. With me today is Heather Lander of South Australia. Heather, it's been a few years since last our paths crossed, but I'm really looking forward to visiting with you. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, really well, really well. Yeah, it's
All
9
right.
p.m. and I'm normally going to sleep at this time, but
I know,
it's
it's
good.
cracking
It's
dawn here, and that's always one of
good.
the awkward things, it seems, and especially once one gets on a plane to go to Australia, it seems, is this really even on the same planet? So far away, so
So
far away.
far away. Yeah, but I think Australians are more used to traveling
Hmm.
and Kiwis as well. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, you have a number of things that you do in the world of cello and the world of string teaching that I'm
Mm,
very excited to ask you about. I'm very excited for my students to hear. But
yeah.
one of the things I'm particularly also curious about is what led up to this career. So I don't know about your musical background. How did you get started on the cello, and what was your educational path?
Yeah. Well, it's quite funny because no one in my family is musical. And like my grandfather died thinking I played the banjo. So really no one's musical. And at all. So I think my mum was keen for me to learn an instrument because she got to sing in choirs and things like that. So she really wanted me to have an opportunity. And there was some in Queensland. So I actually grew up in a different state to where I'm living now, and there was some programs that you could learn an instrument, and I took a couple lessons, and the teacher said, "Don't learn from me, learn from this other guy." And I was really lucky. And this was in a regional area; it wasn't like a big city. I had a really my first teacher was a really great teacher who'd played in like the Bournemouth Sinfonietta. So he was quite a nice, a beautiful played, learnt from Fournier, etc., etc.
Wow.
Um, and then he left, and then I was taught by his most. So this is Cairns was like at that time, like 2,000 kilometers from the nearest city.
Mm.
So like major city. So there was no cello. We got an orchestra once a year.
Wow.
So, and there was no, I'm that old that like pre-internet, so a
Uh-huh.
long times. And so we got the orchestra came up by train once a year. And for a while, I went down to have lessons in the next biggest city, which was 5 hours away. So like once a month I'd have lessons. So yeah, it was kind of patchy. And then I had a really good teacher in my final sort of years of high school, well, about 24, no, 14 years ago, like when I was
Okay.
14 years, not 14
Uh-huh.
years ago, but when I was 14, the age of 14,
Uh-huh.
um, came to town after having like no teacher, intermittent sort of lessons. And then I worked really hard. And he was like a Czech background and he'd studied from Navarra and done all the, and I kind of did some good auditions and, you know, but it was kind of, I guess from that experience, my backgrounds, and then I did uni in different places, and I learnt. I think you've had Miranda Wilson on
Yes.
here. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I studied in New Zealand with her. She was
All right.
a couple of
Excellent.
years ahead. So yeah, so we both had these amazing Russian teachers
And what
there.
were their names? The fellow who studied with
Ivash,
Fournier in Navarre.
no, Richard Odysseus. Unfortunately, he passed away not so long ago.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so kind of it's funny how, and you know, Russian teachers have a completely different technique. So my, you know, different sorts of, a lot of different sorts of backgrounds with different sorts of teaching.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so yeah, if that's
Well,
sort of, so yeah, I guess I've had a lot of, it's been a very kind of not a smooth trajectory where things happen and then blah, 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 blah,
uh-huh.
if that makes
Well,
sense.
would you mind um so it's funny, it seems that there are places in the world where uh there are a higher density of Russian musician teachers. You know,
Mm,
I remember going to University of Guadalajara in Mexico, and it was a significant portion of the faculty that were Russian. Um, anyway, just in the course of talking pedagogy, then I think was one of the times that it started to emerge. Okay, this is, and on one hand, kind of really old school, what we'd call old school. But anyway, I'm curious, what in your opinion is the distinctive characteristic of the Russian teacher's approach?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think uh possibly and this is I think I was going to come to this point. I think because and I don't think you should mind me saying at the time Natasha's English wasn't so great.
Mhm.
So she used fewer words to get the point across.
Aha, demonstrate.
And yeah, well just fewer words. And I think she really cared. I think like when we got sick, she'd tell us, now you have to do this and do this. But I think because she cared so much, everyone gave so much in the lesson.
Hmm.
And frequently, and I think the kind of teaching doesn't exist anymore where frequently most people would walk out of the lesson crying, but not crying as in a bad way, but because we're kind of at that level of being
Wow.
pushed,
Wow.
which
Yeah.
I don't think you can't teach like that today. You really can't. Um, yeah, but it was a different kind of teaching, and I hadn't had that experience before. But I think everyone that learnt from her, I can still hear her in my head when I'm teaching sometimes.
Well,
And
so
mm,
I where so you were well north in Queensland.
I was, yeah, it's like 2,000 kilometers from Brisbane. It's near the Great Barrier Reef.
Wow.
Up. Yeah, yeah, I grew up there.
That
Yeah,
that sounds really
it's
fascinating.
it is interesting. It's an interesting place.
All right.
Yeah.
And then so how what was it that brought you then from there to teaching in South Australia?
Well, I mean, I was in Canberra for a while, then I was in New Zealand, and then the Ivashkins got a job at Goldsmiths at the Russian Prokofiev archive, so they left there. So I was kind of didn't have the funds to get to London up to New Zealand. So I finished off my degree in Sydney, and
Got it.
then Adelaide's a great place for me because it's kind of cultural, but I don't really want to live in a really busy city.
I have to admit,
I
I really love Adelaide.
mm,
Sydney and Melbourne are like what you say, they're too big, you know.
mm.
But Adelaide still feels personable, or
Yeah, it may have
intimate or
changed. It's
something.
getting quite big
Oh,
now,
really?
so
Ah.
yeah, I'm just like, "Ooh." But I guess all cities sort of start out like that, and then Sydney in the 50s was apparently really lovely.
Ah, hmm, interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Mm,
you teach, among other things, I'm trying to think of the most logical order of this.
mm.
The system that we have over in the States these days for string players, we call it the ASTA CAP program, American String Teachers Association Certificate Advancement Program. But it's
Okay.
modeled on the British system, I believe, more than anything, the Royal Academy, ABCRM.
ABRSM,
Yeah, thank you,
ABRSM,
RSM.
and
Thank you.
Trinity, the band,
But
yeah, the bar.
but what is the equivalent system in Australia under which
Uh,
students uh, work on a particular set of repertoire or skills to a particular level and then get
yeah,
evaluated?
it's AMEB, Australian Music Examinations
Okay,
Board. Yeah,
good.
AMEB. Yeah, so I'm an examiner for that. But I mean, like any sort of, and you'll say this to your students, Mozart never did an AMEB exam, and they'll be like, what? Because well, examinations are useful and they're a great, tool, but they're not, they're a Victorian invention.
Hmm.
When people got, historically, they're not, they're one curriculum, but it's not the decisive
No,
curriculum. Maybe I'm not, I shouldn't be saying that because I'm I benefit from the system, but yeah,
no, but
it's just
it's
one way of doing things. Mm,
but at the same time, there's something about the young mind, or many of them, where
mm.
between the structure and or the sense of competition, that can motivate them on a way that some other a lot of other things don't. Just being encouraged, hey, wouldn't you like to be better at the instrument? But they can have these
Carrots.
miniature evaluations. Yes, exactly. And now suddenly they will advance at a faster rate, and they'll do the heavy lifting, the work.
Yes, 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 yeah. I don't know. I've just been examining recently. I think because anyone can enter these exams at any stage, and sometimes I think people are in a rush to get to the highest levels very, very quickly, which I think, you know, but yeah, um I I think I think learning's more than that
Yes, yes, yeah.
in my opinion, in my opinion. So
Learning is a lot of things.
learning, yeah, it's so much. And I think also too for me, because I'm always learning lots of different things,
Uh-huh.
and I'm a bit of a nerdy junkie about all things music, but also all things, um, all things performing, using your body, expression, that sort of world I'm kind of interested in.
Yes.
Um, so, yeah, I think, and also like I've done a bit of Alexander technique and things like that, those sorts of things. I think it really helps to know about your body. Obviously, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's true. Those sorts of exams where um I mean, often they're set up to be achieve this specific technical goal, or something like that, and then it's up to the teacher, hopefully, to encourage them to add the other musical elements or movement elements or awareness of their body, sort of thing, which makes a good segue. Dalcroze is certainly popular in the United States as well, but
Hmm.
sometimes it's kind of funny how something that has been around a while and is known, the moment that somebody comes here, for example, and gives a Dalcroze workshop, it sets people on fire in a way, as though that's the brand new thing, that they've never heard of it before. But
Yeah.
but just
Mm.
the value of thinking about the body and motion and how it relates to rhythm, just all the time, just intrinsically, is
Mm.
so hard to overstate. But I'd like to get your thoughts on not only Dalcroze or Alexander technique or movement, and then also how you intentionally incorporate those into your cello teaching.
Yeah, I think probably I think you're a lot more intentional, scientific, and list, whereas I'm kind of more intuitive. So,
Okay.
and that's how I kind of roll. Basically, absorb things, and they come out in strange ways at a
Okay.
later date. Yeah, so it's more sort of yeah, yeah. So I do. I guess with Dalcroze, I think. I didn't intend to do study Dalcroze or like a president of Australian vice president of Australia Dalcroze Association, but I think it's really important to. The more I do it, the more I kind of it changes my mind about music because I'm kind of seeing it as time, energy, and space, time, energy, and space, most
Okay.
things. So, which is one of the tenets of, and I guess you know the history. The reason why he got to that is he was accompanying Enescu, and this is what
Mhm.
Enescu did before his warm up, like he before he performed, he did all these movements and stuff like that. And I think one thing it kind of does is because you have to do all these physical things with your body, and I'm not a dancer, and it kind of changes. It kind of changes in going through the kind of exam process. It uh, makes you not embarrassed anymore
Gosh, that's
because
a
you've
biggie.
done
That's a
lots. It's you've done a lot of embarrassing things with other in front of other people. Yeah.
That's
Um,
interesting. I like that because we need self-awareness, but that
mm.
self-consciousness is not so valuable on stage.
It's not. It's not. And also too, like I probably, I've probably changed so much from when if you'd interviewed me like when I was like 20 years ago to now, totally different person, completely
Hmm.
different. Like the other night, I think was it last night or the night before? I just like to go to a bluegrass jam and jam some music or do whatever. And I couldn't have done that as a classical cellist. So it's kind of, I think it's allowed me to do improvisation from doing Dalcroze, but it's not like jazz improvisation, which like someone says jazz improvisation, and I feel like I'm, falling under a whole lot of bricks and it's burying me alive. But where it's like I was taught how to do this, it's stuff I already know, I can use this and blah 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 blah. So I think it's very useful. It's a very useful thing to do. And you've got some amazing, like, I really wish I got to see Lisa Parker before she passed away. Fantastic solfege, famous around the world in American, Dalcroze people. And there's amazing people. I mean, we do a slightly different system because we're in Australia. But yeah, I haven't yet gotten there. But yeah, Dalcroze is amazing because I think for me, and I mean, everyone, there's a lot less men that do it than women. But I think because it makes you talk to a whole lot of people that are musicians or dancers. I know or even ventriloquists, the head of in Italy, she's a ventriloquist. And
Nice.
I think it puts you in, yeah, it puts you in an idea of performance as, the way things sound, but also how you express things. And I think there's a lot of commonality between music and different sorts of art forms.
Yes.
And I've played in sort of played music for, one person acts and stage performances and things like that. And when you're part of that, it's important to understand how you fit in the dramatic context. So, yeah, I think Dalcroze is useful in that. It stops you. It doesn't stop you. Well, for me, my experience of I'm not as easily embarrassed. And but the most important thing is you have a whole lot of joy, and it's
I
kind
like
of like that kind of childlike joy. You kind of go, oh yeah, I love this. This is really great, and I'm having a great time.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
That's great.
And I think I can go on, but I will stop.
No, no, I mean, there's two things that you were saying. Um, so one of them, the intentionality aspect versus um, like sometimes when you go to a master class, I'll share this with my students as well, that they know, oh, I needed to hear that, and I'm going to try that. But then there are other things that by having gone to that master class, a variety of master classes, you are setting up context in your brain, your conscious and your subconscious, where there is more likely to be these sorts of intuitive leaps. So sometimes you take Dalcroze, for example, because you know you want to accomplish X or Y or Z. And other times you take it because you know that having another set of just ideas about these connections among the arts between movement and rhythm and etc. are going to be productive, you know. So I'll just give an example. There are times where we are very close to our juries, our final exams for the spring semester. And unfortunately, there's a lot of concerts towards the end of the semester. And so some of the cellists who are used to practicing or playing this amount per day, who are now playing this amount per day, majors or non-majors are suddenly like, I'm having pain here. I'm starting to have pain here or something. And I don't necessarily mean this about my particular students now, if they're watching, but in general, there can be times where a youngster only has a high level of awareness of how they're using particular muscles when that muscle starts to complain or object. Whereas things like Alexander technique and Dalcroze, my understanding, helps you stay aware of them at all times, before the fact, before you've had the chance to kind of start to misuse it repetitively and make it start to complain. You just are trying to always keep that connection of how one movement sets up the next movement and how your
Mm,
body is one whole and everything relates to everything else.
mm,
Would you
exactly.
agree?
Yes, yes. I like your word intuitive leap. I wrote that down. That's a good word. I think not only that. I think because I think when they had the Great Fire in that Library of Constantinople, was it? Um,
Mm,
I think the whole Descartes separation dualism of body mind is not a thing. And I
yes.
think the problem is that so many people and priorities of education slash government slash whatever, we put some things. I think music is the one thing that can sort of transcend these boxes and make
Uh-huh.
us realize that we are all interconnected with our feelings, expression, it makes you more connected. And, with like some of the research that people have been doing and talking about, we are like that. And even, we have neurons on our heart, even like people don't even, we know so much more about our brain these days and how things can work. And I think that when you do movement or like, I think you, like even dance and things like that, you everything kind of lines up a little bit better and you're more as an organism, you're more together. And I think it's not often measured that, well, good rhythmic, your rhythmics, good rhythm, that sort of thing. Like if you go back in time, Plato was banging on about things like that. And I think
Nice.
I think it's really important that we talk about that sort of stuff, or
Yeah.
just even put it up onto the top of early childhood things. I mean, kids should be having these sorts of experiences before the age of 5 because that's how their brain's developing. They need to have music and movement. Anyway,
Yes.
that's mm,
Yeah. No, well
mm,
said. I agree. I love it. Now, composition is another
mm.
thing where some students, I mean, it's kind of like this self-consciousness thing again. Some people just don't even want to try improvisation or composition
Yeah, that
because
was me. That was me.
yeah, they're
That was me.
afraid they're
Yeah.
gonna they fail and that sort of thing. And now you
Mm.
routinely teach both and you do both, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess also too, like I like seeing what happens when I'm more kind of experimental.
Uh-huh.
With I do encourage kids to write things, and I do write things. Um, but I think it's really important, and I think it's really important to tell a lot of my students that actually most people aren't well considered about themselves. They're not really interested in you, really. Like most musicians are they actually more interested in self promotion or their own personal agenda. They don't really care what you're doing, so you might as well do your own thing.
Hmm.
I don't know what
Interesting.
you I don't, I don't know what you tell your students, but it's really, I think, probably, I guess, I was probably very shy and very very serious person as younger me, and I think you kind of get to, I don't know, you get to it's actually very nice to be free and being able to be expressive. Why don't you lean into that more than being, I don't know. I think when you're teaching kids, I mean, I've got, by children and kids, I've got students that are 7, and I also have got students up into the 80s. So I have some adult students, and I think only difference is like, some of the things that my 7-year olds say and some of the things that my 80, it's the same thing. Because they haven't, do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's I think for me, the whole process of being a musician and learning music, it's actually learning about yourself. So if you take those experiences and say, yes, okay, I'm going to do a composition, I could end up with egg on my face. It's going to be whatever, but actually I'll learn something about myself, and I'll learn something, and then I can say I did this and that was an experience.
Right,
I
right.
think I'm very tangential at the moment, so sorry, I'm not
No,
really staying
no.
on
But
your
if would you
track.
elaborate some
Mm,
on how you teach composition? So a student gives it a try, knows that they liked this about it, they didn't like this so much. And
hmm
in general, there's a certain extent to which if they keep doing that, they're going to get better at finding out what it is that they like and doing less of what they don't like. They're going to find a voice that they like. But how do you encourage people to it's like think outside the box, explore new ideas that they maybe haven't incorporated in their toolbox previously, or just gotten bouncing around in their ear. How do
mm.
you help them become the composer or improviser they want to be?
By having fun, by playing
Okay,
games. Yeah,
okay.
not taking it so seriously. Because it's not like someone's going to knock on the door. I mean, we're living in a pretty free country, and someone's going to arrest you for, gee, you really shouldn't have done that G sharp. That was atrocious.
The
You know?
composition police, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Or even the improviser. No one's going to remember. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's all it's such a ephemeral. It's only
Right.
because we've got recording,
Hmm.
that we can actually be tracked down and but it's a pretty ephemeral art that we do. And I think it's also quite interesting. I've played with like bands and things like that, and it's actually quite interesting talking about getting slightly off the subject, but when people play, the difference to what it is that they're playing and how they are on stage. So sometimes, like you can have a really fantastic performer, but you don't really, you're so captivated by their charisma or whatever that you don't actually listen to their, and you go, actually, that was quite out of tune.
Huh.
But I
Uh-huh.
really felt
Uh-huh.
something. Well, I'm talking about more sort of, or the twangy sort of voice. So I think with classical musicians, we're kind of a lot like origami
Huh.
folders. Very, very whereas like I mean
Uh-huh.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm a big
Yeah.
lover of a Kandinsky. Do you know what I mean? Like we don't have
Yes.
to be so precise. I mean, well, he was precise too, but
In a different.
we can
Yeah.
in a different kind of way. So um, I think it's important to be precise, but it's also I mean I circulate with a whole lot of different types of musicians, and sometimes I don't tell people I'm a classical musician. It's really interesting to hear what they say sometimes. But I think it's really marketing that makes you put walls between different, like the whole idea of, I think music is music. Like you can hear some things that sound baroque, like Led Zeppelin is very baroque. I mean, things like that. There's a whole lot of things that people are copying and say, oh, it's totally different. Actually, it's not. It's just, you're just putting on a different instrumentation with some more reverb and stuff. Just to think very critically about a whole lot of type of different music and why that affects you. And like I had a student that she was really inspired by Korean soap operas. She wasn't Korean herself, but she liked watching these Korean soap operas. So she wrote a composition about this dynasty, and it was really good. It was sounded very sort of, it was a little bit like those postcards that you have from, how those composers wrote postcards from Spain or whatever it was from
That's
the
cool.
something. Yeah, yeah. So I think, I mean, I'm very kind of, I like a narrative, emotionally or otherwise, kind of um, music that is
Yeah.
kind of more melodically driven. But yeah, it's also interesting to experiment with like Iwato scale or different sorts of scales, and even playing with people like the Makoam scale that's slightly sharper. I think it's really interesting to have a listen to that because um, like even to jam with musicians that are from a different culture, because you learn something that you're not experiencing within the Western sort of music traditions.
Yes, yes. Well, it sounds like uh, you don't have the kind of trepidation sometimes when something new comes along. You just embrace it and do your best. You've got
Yeah.
what there was a running across at some point a trio of cello and was it concertino or
Ah,
the
yeah. So that's I play a lot with those guys.
all
So
right,
it's called a blanket of stars,
all right,
and how that happened was at you know the Murray River. You've been to Australia.
yes.
Yeah, you know the Murray River. A friend of mine had a shack there, and I said, let's all go down for a weekend at the shack, and we all met and played some music for a long time, and there was a bonfire, so it was like quite nice. But my friend Karen, who plays the English concertina, she was a clarinetist for a long time in an army band, in the Australian Army Band, one of them, I don't know which state, but anyway, she had a problem with her tongue, and she couldn't play the clarinet anymore.
Hmm.
So she's always sung in like lots of different sorts of places. So, and anyway, I was listening to, I don't know where I was. I think I was camping somewhere and at some sort of festival. And I heard this lovely music. And I was like, oh, what's that? Would sound really good on the cello. So I was like, oh, do you blah, blah, blah. And so we started playing together. And then my friend Doug, who plays guitar, it was a few things. It had flute in it for a while. Anyway, but the concertina is really, English concertina is kind of like an instrument that's going extinct.
Hmm.
It's a fully chromatic one that she's is doing, and it's interesting in many ways because it's a little bit like the recorder. You don't get the same sort of dynamics.
Uh-huh.
Um, you just have to act the dynamics. But and it's also interesting because the fluctuation in pitch is sometimes sharper and flatter,
Hmm.
depends on whether it's going out, and depends on how often she gets it tuned. So it's interesting for a cellist to play with that because you have to kind of, where am I going to place this? I'm not using any I'm not using any open strings other than the C string. So in terms of making that work, that's kind of
Interesting.
interesting. And yeah, and so I mean that's been an interesting discovery. But her melodies are beautiful, like they're really
Hmm.
beautiful melodies. So I like playing in that ensemble. I also play in some other ensembles as well, but yeah, it's nice to play with some violins after that. Yeah.
Yeah, what's the instrumentation of the Academy Trio? Is it a piano
Oh,
trio? No.
that was a piano trio.
Okay. All
Yep,
right.
yep, yep, yep. So yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, it's yeah, it's very interesting, especially I think I have really enjoyed this series of interviews, and it's interesting, for example, when people kind of follow the traditional path and end up playing in an orchestra. And it's also very interesting when they kind of create their own path in terms of like more non-classical playing, for example.
Hmm.
Um, and do your own approach to your studio teaching and such.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really been interesting.
I think also too, and the one thing, not having a musical family, I think I probably just went into things because I was so interested in it,
Hmm.
and it was just me kind of pushing it. It was just me wanting to do it and just kept on doing things. So I think the other thing that I found really useful was doing a lot of busking because that's just you and whoever stops to listen.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said for performing on a street. And maybe not so much in this digital age, but that was such a really good thing that I did a lot of when I was a kid.
Nice.
And you do actually, it's a good I think it's a good performing experience.
Uh-huh. Right.
Yeah.
The sorts of things that will make somebody just stop in their tracks and turn and
Well, it's not
listen.
I think it's not who you expect would, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
I think we kind of have these ideas of music is I think music really can appeal to anybody and anyone. And I think uh, I'm not someone that thinks I think everyone should have an opportunity to be interested and engage with music,
Here,
any type
here.
of music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times some people don't have an experience and they would have. Like I've had bikers give me like money from like really like really tough as nails kinds of guys. Like, oh, that
Yeah.
was when I was a kid. I was like, oh wow, thank you, sure. Like, sure, you're giving me that's a lot of money, but yeah, I think it's really important that you can actually. It's not what things look like in the world of in an increasingly what you look like and how things should be. It's not really like that. It's a kind of, you know, it's something
Got
else.
it. Well, till
It's
next
been
our
a pleasure.
paths cross then.
Yes, thank you
All
so
right.
much. It's been
Thank
great
you.
chatting.
And
Good.
everybody out there, happy practicing all week. We'll meet back this same time next week. Take care.
You had me at Jello.